So, before we begin, let me give you some safety information. This is not a hate video. I will not take clips of Blaire White out of context and cut them up in a desperate attempt to prove her wrong. I'll leave that to the crazy yally YouTubers. At times, this video will seem like it doesn't have anything to do with Blaire White at all, but believe me, she is a centerpiece to all of the things that I will be talking about, and it will all lead back to her eventually. Two more things. Firstly, I did want to get White Christmas as the intro song for this video, but that song is one of the only Christmas songs that is copyrighted, so we don't have the funds for that. Also, I did paint my nails just to spice up the comments, but I fucked up royally, so excuse me for that. So, that's it. Grab some candy and enjoy the show.
In the beginning, there was the election. Our young protagonist didn't know much about America's new President Trump, but the media told him that he's bad. So, of course, that's what he believed as well. The day of when it all went down was truly something special. Even though he lived in Italy, and might I add, in the middle of nowhere, all day long everyone kept looking at their phones, incredulous at what was happening to the greatest country of the world. The boy had no idea of what incredible political journey was waiting for him, and what darkness he was about to uncover.
Blaire White is an American conservative political YouTuber, very outspoken about her opinions, and striking a great balance in her content between talking about serious issues, disproving nonsense, and catching predators, which is my favorite thing she does. This leads to her being hugely successful and allows her to tour the country right now, meeting fans and hosting panels. She is not only well known, but also well liked, filming videos with many online personalities, including most famously Shane Dawson.
And so it was, during a Sunday dinner between friends, that one of them, growing ever distant from our protagonist, decided to interrupt the funny Orange Man Bad memes and jokes to inform everyone at the table that maybe Trump wasn't so bad. Maybe they were all ignorant, and maybe they all had no idea what they were talking about, especially when it comes to the way that he treats immigrants. Chris, our protagonist, was shocked. But, ever the caring friend, he decided to do some research. After a while, YouTube's all-powerful algorithm started to adapt, and there she was. The beautiful, the unmissable Blaire White.
To many people, Blaire White being both a trans woman and conservative is an inherent contradiction, as the right in America is often viewed as being wholly anti-LGBT, and she herself has had all kinds of accusations thrown at her, most notably the fact that she herself would be transphobic, secretly hating herself and wanting to damage the trans community. Something mentioned and ridiculed often in her videos. Shortly put, she hopes to build a true and honest trans community, free of pretenders and misinterpretation in the media.
Her videos were a riot. Never before had our protagonist filled his room with such laughter. She was also a window into a world yet unknown to him, the fascinating world of the gays. More than that, he felt smart for watching her. So often had she disproven the ridiculous claims of the social justice-obsessed internet personalities. Soon, he had found out that Blaire wasn't the only one. The YouTube algorithm kept recommending. He kept discovering. The fun wasn't to end anytime soon.
So we can finally get into the nitty-gritty. I don't watch Blaire anymore. Her content, while fun in its own way, is really damn repetitive. There's only so many jokes you can say while disproving the same people who say the same things over and over again. Not only do the jokes become less funny, you might also start to realize that, well, they weren't really funny in the first place. I mean, no matter if you like her content or not, you'll have to agree that she only ever does three things: disprove and/or criticize a usually deranged person, respond to hate or explain why something Trump or some other person did isn't so bad at all. In this regard, she really isn't any different than all the other right-wing YouTubers who have been regurgitating the same lines we've all been hearing since 2013. Insert joke about attack helicopters being a gender here.
And so it was that the protagonist had swiftly left the safe haven that was Blaire White's and dabbed into much deeper, more sinister waters. So much so that, come the next Christmas, he was changed profoundly. He too sparked up a conversation while spending time with his friends. "Why would you defend Blaire so adamantly?" said his friend. "Because I love her content so passionately," he answered. It went back and forth and up and down, and our protagonist was loving it. He had been prepared by the internet for exactly this moment. His friend was just like the crazy triggered feminists he saw online. She wasn't enlightened like him. Her opinions were wrong, and if she truly thought things in such a narrow-minded way, he didn't want to be friends with her anyway.
I've mentioned before that one of Blaire White's goals is to build a true trans community free of pretenders and people who falsely claim to be part of it. I think the problem with this is pretty apparent. You should not, and very likely cannot, build a community around the core principle of hating a certain kind of person, or being better than that kind. I'm not saying that it doesn't work, I'm saying it's unhealthy. There are many people who feel validated by Blaire White's work, and many even abandon their own stigma against trans people because of her. But there will also always be people who see the outrageous personalities she criticizes and try to apply the logic and approach of her and other YouTubers onto their relationships in real life. Just like I did. This actually perfectly leads into my next point. Obviously, it isn't Blaire White's intention to further spread bigotry, but that undoubtedly is a side effect of her actions. YouTubers sadly don't get to choose how their videos and actions are interpreted, and on the internet people can quickly become symbols for something very sinister. My phase of watching right-wing videos definitely has left a subconscious mark on me, and if I wouldn't be actively working against it, I would have missed meeting some of my most beloved friends nowadays, only because a person on a screen told me they tick some boxes that make them bad.
Life was good. He felt gratified in how strong, independent, and most of all, not sensitive he was. He had never been so fit, felt so confident and accomplished. It was easy having a simple kind of person to hate, and his life seemed to progress at a breakneck pace. One day, however, his health took an unexpected dive. He was locked out of going to the gym and found himself sitting on his bed more often than he'd like. The entertainment from all the channels he watched turned more and more hollow until one day someone he watched said something odd. He unapologetically called some gay men fags and proceeded to rant about how he hated them. Our protagonist didn't know how to react. In that moment, the spell was broken. He looked back onto the people who force-fed him their ideas, their fake data, well, their bullshit, and ran out of those woods as fast as he could, eradicating every single one of them out of his life, even his beloved Blaire White. He felt lost, yes, but free of being controlled, and ready to face the real, tangible problems in his life.
Most YouTubers and online personalities have a persona, a brand that they stick to. Not only is it a good decision marketing-wise to develop a certain style and become known for it, but it also helps to differentiate from who you are as a person in private and sort of creates this thin but useful barrier between you and the waves of hate and criticism that will hit you. Blaire White's persona is clearly the one of an intelligent, if a bit aggressive, confident young woman. She rarely, if ever, strays away from it. Note that I'm not saying that that isn't who she truly is. And she does have a second channel called Blaire Black, in which she is a little bit more unfiltered. The problem that I want to introduce here is that this persona, often adopted by many right-wing channels, doesn't lend itself well for the production of political content. And the reasons for that can be found in Blaire White's past actions themselves. A simple example for this is her thoughts on non-binary people, so those who identify to be neither of the two genders. Blaire White's actual opinion on them is pretty tame. She merely thinks non-binary people should not be counted as trans. However, she has made so many videos criticizing and mocking non-binary identities that it's pretty much impossible to assume she doesn't have anything against them. And you could ask any of her fans about it. I'm sorry, but this is her fault. She has also, in the past, openly admitted that she is concerned with the content of other conservative YouTubers, as they preach extremist ideas which they themselves don't even believe in, effectively radicalizing their viewers and leading them into dangerous ideas which they wouldn't even support. Personally, and this is just a theory, I think learning about this deeply affected Blaire White, as she has tried to stray away from political content in the past. However, because of the type of community she has built around herself, her straying away from political content would portray her as weak and cowardly in the right-wing space, effectively limiting what she can do if she wants to keep making a shitload of money, which, I mean, who doesn't? I'm not saying she's abandoning morals for monetary gain. In fact, other channels should be accused of that. But I am saying that she could be doing much more interesting and much less harmful things if she just leaned more into her strengths. I mean, I'd watch Blaire White Catches Predators show on Netflix. Now, the second point I wanted to make is another thing that has happened to Blaire, which she has also handled rather well. But it does incriminate a plethora of other channels. Blaire White published an apology video towards Riley Dennis, a trans woman she has criticized many times before. In the video she remarks that she lacked critical information about her, which caused a lapse of judgment on Blaire's side and made her portray Riley in a wrong light. Blaire was clearly shaken up by this in the video too. However, she has been continuously criticizing Riley again just a few months after that. I'm not saying you should give people a free pass just for being wrong about them once, but I am saying that with the aggressive disproving and making fun of style of her channel, lacking critical information about someone or something is a pretty damning problem that can likely happen again. Like I said, this is more so of a problem for other channels, but Blaire serves as both good and a bad example for this situation. So that's it. That's the story of how I started watching Blaire White, slipped, and became a Nazi for a very short while. I wanted to make a video on her because even though I don't actively watch her anymore, obviously I watched her to be able to write the script, I still have this messy relationship with her as a whole. It isn't her fault that I became a racist piece of shit for a hot minute, but I can't delete out of my mind what started with just agreeing with everything and not asking any questions. Blaire White is a fascinating person, capable of a lot more good than people give her credit for. And that was my goal for this video. A bit of self-reflection, a bit of criticism. I think it kind of fits into a Christmas video, doesn't it? It's the time in which you get to calm down, think upon your actions, and maybe change some things in your life. Thank you for watching. Oh, and if you want to know what happened to me and that friend...
I often think back on how I used to love you. You were a brother to me in the past. Now I sit on a high throne of my own making, and I watch you as you play in the mud before me. I am above you, and yet I envy you. Tradition and complacency are your shield against the darkness of life. I wish it were that easy for me. I can't go back to that. I can't abandon what I've built, even if it doesn't truly amount to anything. One day, I hope I'll be brave enough to face you on your own terms, on your own playground. But for now, I'm quite content with despising you. Even so, I hope you were able to find peace in hatred, just as I find restlessness in opposing it. Merry Christmas, old friend.